Daily Words of God.
At the time, Jesus' work was the work to redeem all mankind. The sins of all who believed in him were forgiven. As long as you believed in him, he would redeem you. If you believed in him, you were no longer a sinner. You were relieved of your sins. This is what it meant to be saved, and to be justified by faith. Yet, in those who believed, there remained that which was rebellious and opposed God, and which still had to be slowly removed. Salvation did not mean man had been completely gained by Jesus, but that man was no longer of sin, that he had been forgiven his sins. Provided you believed, you would never more be of sin. At the time, Jesus did much work that was incomprehensible to his disciples, and said much that people did not understand. This is because, at the time, he did not give any explanation. Thus, several years after he departed, Matthew created a genealogy for Jesus, and others also did much work that was of the will of man. Jesus did not come to perfect and gain man, but to do one stage of work, bringing forth the gospel of the kingdom of heaven and completing the work of the crucifixion. And so, once Jesus was crucified, his work came to a complete end. But in the current stage, the work of conquest, more words must be spoken, more work must be done, and there must be many processes. So too must the mysteries of the work of Jesus and Jehovah be revealed, so that all people may have understanding and clarity in their belief. For this is the work of the last days, and the last days are the end of God's work, the time of the work's conclusion. This stage of work will elucidate for you the law of Jehovah and the redemption of Jesus, and is principally so that you may understand the entire work of God's 6,000-year management plan, and appreciate all the significance and substance of this 6,000-year management plan, and understand the purpose of all the work done by Jesus and the words he spoke, and even your blind credence in and adoration of the Bible. All this it will allow you to understand thoroughly. You will come to understand both the work done by Jesus and the work of God today. You will understand and behold all of the truth, the life, and the way. In the stage of work done by Jesus, why did Jesus depart without doing the concluding work? Because the stage of Jesus' work was not the work of conclusion. When he was nailed to the cross, his words also came to an end. After his crucifixion, his work completely finished. The current stage is different. Only after the words are spoken to the end and God's entire work is concluded will his work have finished. During Jesus' stage of work, there were many words that remained unsaid, or which were not fully articulated. Yet Jesus cared not what he did or did not say, for his ministry was not a ministry of words. And so, after he was nailed to the cross, he departed. That stage of work was chiefly for the sake of the crucifixion, and is unlike the current stage. This current stage of work is principally for the sake of completion, of clearing up, and of bringing all work to a conclusion. If the words are not spoken to their very end, there will be no way of concluding this work. For in this stage of work, all work is brought to an end and accomplished using words. At the time, Jesus did much work that was incomprehensible to man. He departed quietly, and today there are still many who do not understand his words, whose understanding is erroneous, yet still they believe it to be correct, and do not know that they are wrong. In the end, this current stage will bring God's work to a complete end and will provide its conclusion. All will come to understand and know of God's management plan. The notions within man, his intentions, his erroneous understanding, his notions about the work of Jehovah and Jesus, his views about the Gentiles, and his other deviations and errors will be corrected, and man will understand all the right paths of life, and all the work done by God, and the entire truth. When that happens, this stage of work will come to an end. The work of Jehovah was the creation of the world. It was the beginning. This stage of work is the end of work, and it is the conclusion. At the start, God's work was carried out among the chosen ones of Israel, and it was the dawn of a new epoch in the most holy of all places. The last stage of work is carried out in the most impure of all countries, to judge the world and bring the age to an end. In the first stage, God's work was done in the brightest of all places, and the last stage is carried out in the darkest of all places. And this darkness will be driven out, the light brought forth, and all the people conquered. When the people of this most impure and darkest of all places have been conquered, and the entire population has acknowledged that there is a God, who is the true God, and every person has been utterly convinced, then this fact will be used to carry out the work of conquest throughout the entire universe. This stage of work is symbolic. Once the work of this age has been finished, the work of 6,000 years of management will come to a complete end. Once those in the darkest of all places have been conquered, it goes without saying that it will also be so everywhere else. As such, only the work of conquest in China carries meaningful symbolism. China embodies all forces of darkness, and the people of China represent all those who are of the flesh, of Satan, and of flesh and blood. It is the Chinese people who have been most corrupted by the great red dragon, who have the strongest opposition to God, whose humanity is most base and impure, and so they are the archetype of all corrupt humanity. This is not to say that other countries have no problems at all. The notions of man are all the same. And although the people of these countries may be of good caliber, if they do not know God, then it must be that they oppose Him. Why did the Jews also oppose and defy God? Why did the Pharisees also oppose Him? Why did Judas betray Jesus? At the time, many of the disciples did not know Jesus. Why, after Jesus was crucified and rose again, did people still not believe in Him? Is man's disobedience not all the same? It is merely that the people of China are made an example of, and when they are conquered, they will become models and specimens, and will serve as references for others. Why have I always said that you are an adjunct to my management plan? It is in the people of China that corruption, impurity, unrighteousness, opposition, and rebelliousness are manifested most completely and revealed in all their varied forms. On the one hand, they are of poor caliber, and on the other, their lives and mindset are backward, and their habits, social environment, family of birth, all are poor and the most backward. Their status, too, is low. The work in this place is symbolic, and after this test, work has been carried out in its entirety. God's subsequent work will go much better. If this step of work can be completed, then the subsequent work goes without saying. Once this step of work has been accomplished, great success will have been fully achieved, and the work of conquest throughout the entire universe will have come to a complete end.